What's going on YouTube? So when it comes to full-size SUVs, the Chevy Tahoe has long been the dominant force in the segment. However, Jeep is fighting back this year harder than ever before. This is the new Jeep Grand Wagoneer. This largest Jeep has big changes for 2026, including a new design, luxury, and a more appealing price tag. So is this new Grand Wagoneer grander than things like the Tahoe? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Like always, let's get things started here with a quick spec dump. So under the hood of the Grand Wagoneer, we have a 3-liter twin-turbo inline 6-cylinder. It makes 420 horsepower. It's paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and with the 4x4 system, it gets 18 miles per gallon combined.
Now, the base price of the Grand Wagoneer is $65,000 this year, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, later on, we'll be taking this out for a spin to show you what that's like, but we need to go ahead and start by talking about the refresh exterior and interior.
Now, before I get into the exterior design, I do want to mention something with the actual name of the vehicle. Some of you guys might be confused with me saying Grand Wagoneer versus Tahoe, but that's actually because Jeep has consolidated all of the trims of Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer underneath of the Grand Wagoneer name for 2026. So there's no longer a regular Wagoneer. Now, let's look at the design because I think you're going to see some really big changes up here in the front. They focused a lot of attention on making this look like a much more upscale SUV, and that begins with the grille. So now we have a more sleek appearance. You have this lower fascia, which is more aggressive, and then the upper part here has been actually shrank down to be a lot smaller with that signature 7-slot design. But what's cool about this grille is it integrates in lighting elements. So you have this light bar that goes across the top here, but also underneath. So this is casting down light, giving this a very distinct look of full illumination at nighttime. Now, as far as the rest of the lighting, you see we have premium full LED headlights on all models. These are projector LEDs, and we also have a dynamic turn signal at the top. And then rounding out our lighting, we have a new accent this year. This is not a fog light, but as you can see, just kind of a more premium accent. Now, as we move to the wheels, you have a bunch of different choices for 2026, new designs as well. As far as what we're looking at today on our limited reserve model is a special 22-inch gloss black alloy. I think this looks absolutely fantastic. Of course, we've got the fully blacked out look on today's example. And as we back up here to our very sizable mirrors, these are going to come standard with blind spot monitoring, heating, and even auto dimming on all models for 2026, plus the limited trim and above will add in power folding.
Now, as we approach the side of the Grand Wagoneer, you can see it's very grand in its overall length. This thing is absolutely massive, especially if you choose the L model like what we've selected today. It's 228 inches in length. It's actually 12 inches longer than the standard wheelbase version. So if you need maximum space, this is probably the one to get. Now, we have all blacked out window surrounds, blacked out roof rails up at the top. You can also get a two-tone black roof that's standard on the Summit model. And as we head around to the rear, you'll see a couple different changes for 2026. It's not a huge difference. The front definitely got a little bit more attention for this refresh model. However, I will say I definitely like the overall shape of it. We don't really have a spoiler or anything up here, but we do have a wiper integrated underneath. Jeep branding across the back, and then let's take a look at our taillights. So our taillights are going to be very premium. As you can see, we have this sequential turn signal, and they are also going to be fully LED reverse light and brake light, and then you have the light bar going across the back. Now, as far as the tow capacity, for the L model, it is slightly reduced, so it's around 9,800 pounds as compared to around 10,000. And we do also have an air suspension on this model, which will increase your overall ground clearance to a little over 10 inches as a maximum. Now, one of the things Jeep has done really well for the refresh is include more standard features. That includes your safety systems as well, because all 4 active safety features will be standard equipment, as well as their active driving assist system this year. But guys, there's a lot to talk about on the inside when it comes to changes and space. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we have reviewed over 2,000 vehicles at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from humble to high-end, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now let's move to the inside. First, of course, here's our Jeep key fob. It's just their typical fob with smart entry and remote start being standard on all models. Now, to get inside the vehicle itself, just grab behind the handle, of course, that will unlock the door. You'll also notice that your upper end trims will get these very wide power deploying running boards. All right, now let's check out the interior. As you can tell right off the bat, we have a pretty luxurious space. And let's get into some individual details, starting with the seats. So real leather is standard on the Grand Wagoneer for 2026. However, once you get to the limited trim, that upgrades you to Napa leather. That's what we have today. Overall feel is pretty premium. Black, I believe, is the only option on this trim level, but you can get some different color options, of course, if you choose things like the Summit, which upgrades you to an even better grade of leather. The same can also be said about the seats, which have 12 ways of power adjustment. Unless you get the Summit, that upgrades you to 24 ways of adjustment and also has massaging abilities. Then over here on the door trim, you have your memory seats. So let's go ahead and climb inside. And beyond the seats, let's get into the rest of the cabin materials. Like I said, there's a lot of trims of this, so of course it is going to vary a bit if you get that, super luxurious Summit Reserve. But as far as this trim, which most people will probably end up with, we have leather across the armrest, of course, and the center part there. We have a faux aluminum trim and then soft touch plastic along the top. Jeep does finish the entire upper dash in a leatherette with the double stitching and details. The same can also be said for the center section, and then we have more of the faux aluminum accenting running all through here, and big old pad of leatherette through here. Everything does feel pretty nice and solid as well. Plus, I like the real metal shifter. Now let's fire it up with the push button start. Of course, after startup, we need to get into individual details, starting with the gauge cluster. So you'll see a 12-inch digital gauge cluster. This is actually the upsized unit that starts on the limited with a reserve package. Otherwise, you get a little bit of a smaller one. You can put things like your maps right there in the display. Also included with that same package is the large head-up display. It's very crisp and includes some good information. Now, as we pull back to the steering wheel, we have the Grand Wagoneer design here. It's just 2 spokes, so you have that open space down here at the bottom. Leather covered, of course, and it is impressively power adjusting on all trims, heated on all trims as well, and you have rain sensing wipers on all trims. So those are some nice standard features. And of course, standard on this model is a lot of space. So let's get into that. Slide that back. You have a little bit of felt line storage there, but the main show is underneath, where you're going to see this absolutely massive void, which you can fill with anything you want, including donuts, of course. We subjected it to the donut test, and we fit the full 2 dozen donuts. That's the maximum score you can get on our test. In front of that, you have your 2 cup holders, and then right in here, you can pop that open. You see another sizable storage cubby with a wireless phone charging pad inside. Now, I already mentioned our real metal shifter here, and when you twist that into drive, you can shift manually on the steering wheel. You can also twist into reverse, and that will pull up our 360-degree camera system. This is available on your upper end examples, and as you can see, you can switch between several different views, including an overhead view, but it doesn't look like you have a 360 spin or anything like that. Go into park, you also have your electronic parking brake, and you can see your drive mode controllers featured over here. And then on this side, you have your air suspension where you can easily change the height adjustments. And then I should mention as well, with the 360 camera, you get the automatic parking system. Now, even though this is a pretty, high-tech environment, you actually get a nice row of physical climate controls on this model, at least. So this is a 3-zone automatic system. Most trims have that, but the Summit does get a 4-zone automatic system instead. Just adjust up and down like so. You can also go into the comfort menu for some additional functionality inside of the display. Of course, on the side of the display or inside of the display is where you can access that heated steering wheel control, as well as your heated and ventilated seats. By the way, both heated and ventilated seats are standard on all trim levels. Now let's move down to our volume knob. You've got 3 different audio systems on board. We've got the 19-speaker Macintosh audio system on the limited reserve today. Let's give that a sample right now. Yeah, so overall sound quality of this system is really good. It's a very powerful sounding sound system with plenty of bass, but also a good balanced sound profile. All right, so let's take a look at our main display. Now this is one area that hasn't really changed much for the refresh. So you still have Uconnect 5 with a 12-inch display. Some of the competition, of course, such as the Ford Expedition and the Chevy Tahoe, have moved to much larger displays and a little bit more of a high-tech environment overall. This, like I said, has Uconnect 5, so you could see demonstrated is a little bit laggy at times for sure because they haven't really upgraded the processing. That being said, it has built-in navigation, you have wireless Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay abilities as well. There is also an available passenger display, and as we move up here to our mirror, we have a standard auto-dimming mirror. You can also get the digital camera rear view mirror on the Summit model, and your HomeLink remotes are in the visor. And as we look up here at the ceiling, this is certainly a pretty cool feature that the competition isn't offering. You'll notice we've got a panoramic sunroof up here in the front. That's pretty much expected for this segment at this price point. But what's not expected is the fact we have another sunroof there for the third row. Obviously, this is going to be on just the kind of upper end examples, but it's certainly pretty cool to have more or less 3 sunroof panels.
All right, so let's check out the main show of this vehicle, which will be the rear space and the cargo area. Let's start by being here in the second row. So as far as legroom figures are concerned, we're looking at about 43 inches of legroom, 38.4 inches of headroom. Those are very good figures as expected. As you can see, there's tons of room back here, and it's very similar to that of the Chevy Tahoe and GMC Yukon. Now, this seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8", I'm 5'9", and I brought along the official Car Confections ruler so you can get a realistic knee room figure. 10 inches is what you can expect. Also, my feet can easily slide up underneath of these seats. These seats slide forward and back a very good distance as well, and they also have the ability to recline a really good distance to really maximize your comfort on longer road trips. Now, you'll notice that we have captain's chairs for this model. That's actually standard across every single Grand Wagoneer. You can get bench seating if you'd like to increase your overall seating capacity up to 8 passengers instead of 7 as tested today. If you choose this model, you'll have vents right here as well in the center area. We have our own zone of climate, and starting on the limited trim is where you get the 3-stage heated back seats. You can also get ventilated seats on the Summit model optionally. Little storage cubby underneath of that. We have a household outlet, 4 USB ports, and a 12-volt outlet, so you should be able to definitely keep everything charged up. 2 cup holders down below there, and I do want to point out, if you get the fully loaded example, you kind of get a console area for a more executive rear seating experience with the screen and everything like that. Now, over on the door trim, we have rear window sunshades. I do believe those are standard equipment as well. And then on the door trim, nice materials, lots of leather, that same faux trim. We also have quite a bit of storage down in the very bottom. And now let's check out the third row, because I think you'll be pretty darn impressed with that. So in order to get back here, you press this button. That's actually going to kind of allow the seat to tilt out of the way. As you can see, the back didn't move, so you would be able to leave a child seat installed, which is nice. The Tahoe is not like that. And let's go ahead and hop back here into the third row itself. Wow. This is a absolutely fantastic third row. As a matter of fact, I've spent quite a lot of time in Grand Wagoneer's third rows, and I have to say this is probably one of the best third rows, if not the best third row that I've been in for an extended amount of time. We're sitting at about 37 inches of legroom, and I think about 38 inches of headroom. So really, for someone who's 5'9" like myself, this is perfectly comfortable here in the third row, which is typically not something that you can say about a vehicle. It really is just about as nice as the second row. Even with the seat slid all the way back, I have 4 inches of additional knee room. My feet can slide up underneath of the seats. And really the thing that I love the most is the fact that the thigh support is great. The seat is lifted far off the floors, so my knees aren't rammed into my forehead or anything like that. And as far as features, we have a cup holder here. We also have a button right here to recline the seat a little bit. We have 2 USB ports and vents on both of the sides. And of course, that's in addition to the fact that we have a really large piece of glass back here on the side, as well as our own moonroof with a shade. So this is absolutely fit for a king when it comes to our third row rating scale. Walking up to the tailgate, we have a standard hands-free power tailgate on all models, and I think you'll be very impressed with the amount of space that you'll find here in the Grand Wagoneer, especially if you choose the L version. It's going to be about 43 cubic feet of space behind the third row of seats. That's fantastic. And if we power fold those down, which there are buttons to easily do that here, I just with one single press can do that. That's going to give me about 85 cubic feet behind the second row of seats. And then if I fold those down, which I can also do electronically, that will give me the maximum of 131 cubic feet of cargo capacity on the Grand Wagoneer. That is absolutely fantastic when it comes to those numbers, and it is very much on par with main rivals such as the Chevy Suburban, the Yukon XL, things like that will definitely be very similar in cargo capacity, and this is going to be on the upper end, for example. Now, if you're curious as to how it compares to those vehicles in other categories other than just cargo, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We've gone through all the full-size SUVs on the market and ranked them in those individual categories, so you can sort based on the thing that matters most to you, whether that's third row, cargo space, interior technology, luxury, powertrain choices, and even things like value, so you can see the best options in each of those categories. So make an informed buying decision and check out our website, carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now, let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures. I'm going to have to really use my tape measure and get it all the way stretched out here. Behind Drew's 5'8" seating position, we're looking at 9 feet, 108 inches of length. That may be about the biggest length that I've ever done. Behind the second row, with it slid all the way back, still 70 inches of length. From behind the third row, 35 inches of length. And then as far as the opening, it's a very square vehicle, so it's going to be pretty good. 51 inches wide. The height, incredible, 33 inches tall. And then let's get our load-in height as well. Now keep in mind you could also lower the air suspension a little bit more. 32 inches is your load-in height in kind of the standard suspension setting. There's a tiny bit of underfloor storage, and you also have a full-size spare tire underneath of the bumper. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the Jeep Grand Wagoneer. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our sound level reading. But first, we need to start with a hard acceleration.
And as quick as that, we're over 60 miles per hour with the Grand Wagoneer. Now, let's kind of recap with what we talked about with the spec dump just a little bit. So what this has under the hood is a 3-liter twin-turbo inline 6-cylinder. This is what's called the Hurricane. This has really nice power figures, so 420 horsepower and 468 pound-feet of torque. This is the standard output version. There is actually a higher output version. It's not available, though, on the Grand Wagoneer this year. We'll talk about that in just a second with another powertrain update. But as far as the overall acceleration with this version, really impressive. We're looking at a 0 to 60 of about 5.3 seconds overall. So that it definitely is very comparable to what you would get out of a Tahoe.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I will say that that acceleration there just kind of showed you it's a very nice and refined powertrain. We've lived with it in a couple different other products like Ram trucks, and really the inline 6 does have quite a bit of refinement to it. And as you can see on that acceleration, it did not feel underpowered whatsoever. That's actually the same horsepower figure as what you'd get in the upgraded engine in the Tahoe, the 6.2 liter, a little bit extra torque as well. I honestly feel like this feels a little bit faster than the Tahoe's V8.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just so buttery smooth and very luxurious overall. You know, of course, not as loud as the Hemis that these offered a few years back, but it's a really nice powertrain.
Yeah, now I will point out Like Drew said, you do not get the high output version, so I believe that has around 540 horsepower. You cannot get that for 2026 in the Grand Wagoneer lineup, but what Jeep is promising in the future is an E-Rev, so an extended range EV powertrain that's going to be making around 647 horsepower. And, it's kind of complicated. I'm not going to go into too much detail as to that in this video, but it will have around 150 miles of all-electric range and a 92 kilowatt lithium-ion battery pack, as well as a Pentastar V6 engine, so you can go on long road trips without having to worry about charge. So that's definitely going to be an interesting powertrain, very unique for the segment. Of course, it's not on sale just yet, so you will have to wait longer if you want to get that.
Yeah, Jeep is targeting maybe about the middle of the year. We'll see if it comes out during that time frame. But yeah, basically that's going to be the upgraded powertrain because it's about 640 horsepower on board estimated. So that's why they decided not to offer the high output this year. Now, of course, we just need to talk about the other element of the powertrain. That's the transmission. We've got an 8-speed automatic on board. This is a nice and smooth transmission. Nothing, super noteworthy about it. It just kind of blends into the background, which is exactly what you want to have a luxurious experience.
Yeah, and four-wheel drive is actually standard on all but the very base trim level, so that's definitely a nice addition this year. That means your fuel economies for the vast majority of models is going to be sitting right at the 18 mile per gallon mark. So 16, 22, 18 is what you can expect to find out of this four-wheel drive system. That does mean it's not vastly different as compared to like a V8 alternative that you'd get in a Tahoe or something like that, but it is pretty decent fuel economy. If you're most concerned about efficiency, I would recommend waiting for the extended range EV version, which give you that all-electric range coming soon. Now, I also want to talk about ride quality with this model because we've been driving this around all afternoon, and I have to say the ride quality is very good. We have the large 22-inch wheels on the outside, and even despite that, it still does a great job of soaking bumps up in the road. We have the air suspension, as we mentioned, on the outside of this vehicle, so that really does help you to have really good ride overall, despite the body-on-frame nature of this vehicle.
Yeah, it's really does a great job of isolating out the bumps. Of course, the Tahoe we've been mentioning a lot throughout this review has available 24s, so this is going to give you a superior ride than a loaded model with 24s, for example.
Let's go ahead and get our sound level reading going 55. Looks like we're sitting right at that 58 decibel mark for this model. Now, I do want to point out that we have it on fan speed 1. The rear climate is turned off, as well as things like our ventilated seats. And I don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to all of its main competition. I can find that at carconfections.com/sound level readings and see kind of how it stacks up. I will say that is going to be a little bit on the louder end, and we've seen that in some of the past Jeep Wagoneer reviews. So keep that in mind. Some of the quietest options in the segment would be the Ford Expedition and the Sequoia. And what's our airball and slam dunk, our least favorite and favorite element about the Grand Wagoneer? Drew, why don't you kick us off with the slam dunk, our favorite thing?
The slam dunk's got to be the 2026 updates. I think that the things that they did to this really have been a meaningful improvement, including to the design, as well as just giving you more standard features across the lineup.
Yeah, now on the airball side, what we really wish they had changed a little bit more of was the technology inside of this vehicle. This Uconnect screen is not very good. It's definitely on the slow side, and compared to all of its competition, things like the Tahoe and the Expedition, it's just going to really feel a lot older and not as high-tech as those main rivals. So let's talk pricing. I think that's an important part of this video because the prices have actually gone to give you a lot more value this year, that's for sure. They give you more equipment, and also some of the prices in many cases have been actually reduced pretty significantly for this model year. So we start at $65,000 for the base model, and then the Limited starts at $71,835, and the top end Summit is $94,085. Now, what we have today is the Grand Wagoneer L Limited Reserve. So this is is going to be a pretty highly optioned model. 73 is our base price. The reserve package is $7 grand. We have a couple other options on here, plus $25.95 destination. All told, we're looking at $85,555. It's assembled in Warren, Michigan, and if you're looking to buy a Jeep Grand Wagoneer or any vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use if you're going to do some dealership negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like a monthly payment tool, you can find all of those things on our website, carconfections.com/newcarquotes. But buying a vehicle is about more than just that original MSRP, so let's talk about resale reliability and the warranty. First up, let's talk about resale value. Jeep as a brand is rated at 53.65% of original MSRP, estimated retained after 5 years and 60,000 miles, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles at 25.45%. That is a little bit above industry average for all vehicle brands. However, some of the competition may be a little bit higher, such as GMC with the Yukon, for instance.
Now, we also have calculated reliability with our combined reliability index. Taking into account our updated 2026 data, Jeep is rated below the overall industry average for all vehicle brands.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale or reliability information, as well as our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Now, also important is the warranty, and you do have a 3-year 36,000 mile basic warranty, a 5-year 60,000 mile powertrain warranty, and you do not have complimentary maintenance. And guys, that's all for our in-depth review of the heavily refreshed 2026 Jeep Grand Wagoneer. If you enjoyed watching this review where we detail all the changes, all the luxury, all the space, we'd encourage you to hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of cool car reviews that I promise you won't want to miss out on, and we'd love to welcome you into our family. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.